Leg him up.
This guy, he's not just a great fighter. Do you know he's a Gorkha soldier?
Track you, find you, and destroy you and your kingdom.
Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the Snob and the Slobs. I am Unknown Comics writer Chris Hurst, joined as always by my fellow slob, a comic book artist and illustrator, Max Hedstrom.
Hello.
And our snobby friend, director of stage and film, Justin Driscoll.
Evening.
So, first of all, as I said in the promo video that went out on social media yesterday, thanks to everybody who joined us last week. We had a huge turnout. We've hit 150 now on the first episode. That's pretty big for a debut live stream for three idiots that don't really have any friends or an audience. So we're really appreciative of that. We've got some big things planned. We've been talking, the three of us, and we've got some stuff coming down the pipe that we can't wait to share with you, including a Halloween special, a Thanksgiving special, because although we live in England, Justin and I are both Americans, so we're going to force Max to celebrate Thanksgiving this year, and we're going to do something really special for that. But tonight, in episode 2, we are talking about Shuni B's Fight of Fury, as you saw in the trailer. It's a lot of fun. Really, much better than last week. And before Max even asks and dimes me out like he did last week, I actually did watch this one the second time for this week. So with that, we're going to do our normal thing, have the chats. Justin's going to go take us through the plot, and then we'll make jokes and we'll share some of your chats. So take it away, Justin.
All right, just before I get started, to be fair, the only reason why you watched this one the second time around was because I forced you to do it. So let's be clear here.
This is a truth fact.
Yeah, I lured you with, debauchery and cigarettes and forced you to watch Fight of Fury. So, as Chris alluded to, tonight's entry is way more fun than last week. It was enjoyable to actually revisit and surprisingly make sense of the more you watch it, which is kind of crazy. So, as he mentioned, tonight's entry is Shuni B's sprawling martial arts crime epic, Fight of Fury. This is set in the seedy underbelly of LA's sex trafficking economy, and this movie follows Brandon, a Jeet Kune Do master who must balance the demands of his highly successful dojo, exceedingly smart and tenacious daughter, the ghosts of his past, the burden of a lifetime of knowledge and wisdom which he must impart on individuals, and the forces of evil targeting a survivor of sex trafficking. Filled with fighting, passion, and life lessons, Fight of Fury is a feast for the soul.
You talked about his philosophies and stuff that he has to share with the world. One thing I noticed, Peter Boghossian created the word deepity to describe, when you see it on social media all the time. It's these things when somebody says something that they think is deep and profound, but is really just word salad and says nothing. Every line of Shuni B's dialogue in this movie is a deepity.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely is.
I mean, to be fair, if you take just the most inane pumpkin spice UGG boots wearing latte drinking Facebook post about live, laugh, love, that is the dialogue for Shuni B in this movie.
Yes. And I'm sure we'll share some specifics as we go. But just
the great thing about it is he's dead serious. Once
again, he is.
Complete lack of self-awareness.
Yeah,
he
fancies himself a wise man, doesn't he?
He does. And Justin, when we were watching it, several times throughout, when Shuni B's character would say something, all the other characters, even the bad guys, even the villains, they talk about how great Brandon, Shuni B's character, they all talk about how great he is, right? So all of the people he saves talk about how great he is. All of the people he's fighting just continue to, he's a Gorkha soldier. And every time one of those would happen, Justin would just look over at me and go, in case you forgot, Shuni B wrote this.
Oh, yes. I mean, to be fair, To be fair, the whole thing about it is that this is the one thing I love about good vanity projects. Your Neil Breens, your John DeHarts, your Tommy Wiseau's, the whole nine, is not only are they the most empathetic and like sympathetic person and the nicest guy, everybody is just constantly amazed that they are lucky to have him in their life.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing because the entire movie is just everybody around him just stroking his ego and just making him feel better about himself.
And that's how I feel about
feel better about himself. I think he
felt
just fine.
That's how I feel about the two of you.
I mean, to be fair,
you're very lucky to have me in your life.
To be fair, that's exactly what this is. I mean, I really appreciated that we really were able to twist your arm to put you out there for the initial promo trailer for this show. It was fantastic. We really sacrificed one for the team.
So he's clearly a huge fan of. I mean, like Danzig last week, he was a huge fan of French cinema, and I forget the director that he was a fan of that did the removal of the face film.
Yeah.
Shuni B is an extraordinarily enormous fan of Bruce Lee.
Yes. So much so that the movie opens with a dedication to Bruce Lee.
Yes.
And like most of the time when you see this, it's somebody who's recently passed away, right? Like somebody from the crew or some, the producer's father or whatever. This movie is dedicated to a guy who's been dead for 45 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and the title of the film is Fight of Fury, which is a nod to Fist of Fury. He steals choreography from Bruce Lee. He makes Bruce Lee's famous martial art noises to the point.
Oh, yes.
We'll see later that to the point where he verges on just doing an impression of a chicken.
It is exactly that. And as you mentioned, he is a huge fan of Bruce Lee. So I think in the most tasteful way possible, that you could start a low budget martial arts exploitation movie set in LA and shot during COVID, mind you, is to open with a silent tribute to Bruce Lee, which is literally just a picture of his grave. And on the left-hand side of the screen, it says tribute to Bruce Lee. And on the right, a film by Shuni B. And after a respectful amount of time, we fade in on shots of LA and a woman running from unknown pursuers. So the first clip that we have, I think, really kind of just shows what we're in store for, or what we're in store for. So, Chris, if you could run that first footage of Karen, please.
Hey, come on, get her. Hey, don't let her go. Don't let her go.
The gate was too heavy for her, but it wasn't too heavy for the guy who was a little bit bigger than her, who opened it quite easily.
Who was literally a millisecond behind her and probably could have grabbed her through the gate and didn't even need to open it.
Yeah. There's so many things wrong.
But we need the movie to happen, Chris. We need the movie to happen.
Yes.
So, as we said, Karen,
the
woman running from unknown pursuers. We intercut this montage of her running from cars on the street with shots of Brandon, who's played by Shuni B, providing Jeet Kune Do and life lessons for a women's defense course. Now, the thing about this defense course is typically what you'll have is, you'll have women that are practicing different martial arts moves and practicing different types of, sequences and routines to help kind of build the confidence to do defense. For some reason, Shuni B is able to actually hire a group of men to come in and just be punching bags to get wrestled to the ground by these women, who then
they're his students,
who will then jump on their back and in true Jeet Kune Do fashion just slap at their back.
And they all have to wear. They all have to wear ski masks as well.
Yes, they all have to wear ski masks.
Yes, they're dressed like predators. I swear to Christ that these people all had to have been his students.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. That's the only reason why
he didn't hire any actors. The whole movie was made for $95,000. So
yeah,
he didn't have a budget. Like he paid them with Subway sandwiches.
And despite having all these students, especially in that scene, he chooses to show his skills on the security guard that's there. Why they need a security guard, I don't know. And then he proceeds to pull off a load of Steven Seagal moves on him until basically he dies.
Yeah,
because he doesn't get back up again.
Yeah, we have a clip.
Truth is different for everyone. Remember the technique that works best for you from your training. Find it, apply it, go with it. Officer Derry.
Yes, sir.
You got it? The whole idea is to keep on flowing until the situation is under control.
I've been to many martial arts lessons in my life, and whenever the sensei or teacher wants to show you an example of something, he uses the students.
Yeah,
he doesn't pull in a security guard to kill.
Yeah. Well, obviously you're not a martial arts master, Max. You don't know how it really works.
Sure.
So.
And why didn't the security guard just say no? Surely that can't be in his job description to get the shit beaten out of him.
Hey, you know what? It's an honor to get the shit beat out of you by Shuni B.
And I'm telling you right now, if that security guard had known Krav Maga, Shuni B wouldn't have gotten away with that shit.
See, this is to be fair. This is the thing. So this is the thing is that what's interesting about watching this is that. What's interesting about watching this is that two things. One, you can tell that he at one time knew martial arts really well. Like you can tell he has the form down, and everything like that. And then from there, you can tell he's just gotten too old that he can't actually pull the moves off anymore. So the stuff that he's doing is really impressive, but he's not able to do it at speed. So he's just waiting for him to actually respond. And then secondly, if you really listen to all the sound effects in that scene, because first of all, this entire movie is ADR'd, is because all the whooshes are in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So it's like, whoosh, 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 whoosh. And it's just insane. And so Katie, to answer your question, what he's doing is he's telling him that he's reached the point of where something's actually going to break. So when you're training in like this like type of grappling,
I think you're giving them way too much credit.
Here we go. He's the snob.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. I bring that type of knowledge.
I think a choreography fighting and fighting are two pretty much separate things. One's a dance where you swing your punches and kicks much wider, and the other one is not, and he doesn't really seem to have much understanding of that, or editing, or directing, or
filmmaking.
No. Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing is like, you think about movies like John Wick, where you had the stunt team from The Matrix actually are the ones that directed the movie and were bringing it. But the thing was is that they had been around enough to know, okay, this is how we actually shoot fight scenes. And Keanu Reeves dedicates himself to shooting fight scenes, and he knows how to choreograph it.
Mm-hmm.
But as you said, Max, knowing how to do a fight or knowing how to fight doesn't actually mean you can shoot it and be able to edit it and choreograph it properly. It helps. You should know how to fight so you know what you're doing, but it doesn't actually mean that you're actually able to do anything.
No, and that's proved massively in this film.
Yes.
Yes.
I think it's also, you pointed out, Justin, when we were talking about the film, the whoosh sounds. Like when you watch that fight scene, all of the whoosh sounds are in the wrong place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing is, if you notice, the dialogue is echoey, and that's because they ADR'd all the dialogue in the entire movie is ADR'd, which is basically overdubbing in post-production.
Yeah.
There is no, because they don't know how to mic a room.
It sounds like they're talking in a warehouse.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
yeah. So it's all done in a studio with reverb and like you would do for an audiobook or for recording an album.
Yeah.
That's why that echo is on there.
Yeah, and what's actually really interesting is when you're watching that scene, and I think that's actually really emblematic of it, is that in movies you have what's called room tone, which is usually recorded on a separate track of the audio track. And what room tone is just the natural sounds that a room has that you don't really notice. So you'll have no dialogue, but you hear very small, like, wind or maybe something's kind of happening in the room, just very small natural sounds in a room. When you can tell that it's artificially quiet, as in they took out all the sound, is that if you listen to Shuni B talking, which is very pausing and very kind of methodical, you don't notice any sort of like rustling of clothes, people moving around, people fidgeting, which would all be caught up by the room tone.
Yeah.
So everything in this movie is ADR.
Or like you said, I think it was you that said even some of the outdoor scenes, you don't hear cars going by. Nope. You don't hear.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. So I will say this, as before we continue on, we are going to really pick at the dialogue and at the pacing of this movie, but we do acknowledge that very clearly English is not Shuni B's first language, and very clearly a lot of the phraseology and the terms that he uses gets lost in translation.
Oh, we've got some doozies.
We get some doozies, but just want to make sure that everyone does where we do acknowledge that he's not a native English speaker. So after this class, Karen finds her way to Brandon's back door. After being surrounded by men in suits, Brandon steps out to see what's happening. After telling the men that no one is owned by anybody, after they claim that she belongs to them, they fight in and around Brandon's studio, and Brandon sadly defeats the thugs. To describe this scene, so when I do prep for these movies, I usually watch it a couple of times. The first time I'll watch just straight through, just taking it in, whatever. Second time I watched kind of paying attention, but starting to think about notes. Third time I'll watch it, I'll take notes. And I sat down Saturday morning to watch this, to take notes. And I messaged both Chris and Max that literally 20 minutes into this movie, I had about 6 pages of handwritten notes. And I'm just like, this is nuts. So to really emphasize how important this is, we have a couple of amazing clips from this first fight. So Mr. Producer, roll that beautiful bean footage.
Go, get in the office.
I love the way he's looking at that little hole into it, even though he knows there's no one in there.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. He knows they're all behind him and none of them have gotten past him.
So Chris and Max and I have talked about bad movies quite a bit in the lead up to this kind of live stream. And one of the things that we always talk about was when you're watching bad movies, everybody kind of knows that there's something wrong, but they can't ever, some people just don't have the verbiage to actually describe what they're seeing and why it's off-putting. And that fight scene is a perfect example of that. The first part is that you have in the first part of the scene when they're about to start the fight, you have all the bad guys outside, Brandon in the door, and Karen behind him. So you have a clear geography of the fight sequence. Then it automatically jumps without anybody moving to somebody punching Brandon. Brandon fights them off. Another guy jumps in and fights him and does the same thing. And then at that point, all of a sudden it cuts to another person behind Brandon who is now inside the studio.
Yeah.
Magic.
So when you're editing motion like that, you have to have a way of connecting the action between cuts.
No, we teleported through him.
Yes, it's teleportation, man. You forgot about Karen and her amazing sliding door.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like in the beginning part of the scene, she's clearly on the right side. She's leaned up against this door while Brandon is fighting in front of her.
Oh, yeah.
And she's leaned up against the right side of the door, and magically, before your very eyes, as if by teleportation,
Kung Fu magic.
Boom! She moves to the left side of the door.
Yeah, Raiden does it all the time on Mortal Kombat.
It's incredible. But the best thing about it is that's about a good 5 minutes into this fight sequence. The entire time, Shuni B is just jumping all over the place through the edits to fight. And like I said earlier, you could tell that he's good at martial arts. Like he knows the motions, he knows what he's doing. He's just old and he can't actually do it. I think at the time of the filming, he was in his late 50s, and it shows.
He looks like
all these things that he's doing, fighting off multiple people. It would be really impressive if he was really fast and quick, but he's not. So now all of a sudden,
but he doesn't even do the thing that Hong Kong kung fu movies do and speed up. Like,
No,
Yes,
he
which is
he doesn't even do
wrong
that.
part. He speeds up the wrong parts of the fight.
Yep.
It's really
yeah.
odd.
So I don't even. Maybe some of it is that I think he was 55. I think he's 56 now, so probably 55 when he made the movie. So
Not that
maybe
old.
it's not that old, but I think it's just that he doesn't know how to film or choreograph fight scenes.
Yeah. No, I contend.
I think you're trying to give the guy way too much of a pass here. On he's an old guy. Sweet old guy. No, he's just bad at filming.
Don't besmirch the good name of Shuni B. If you say his name 3 times in the mirror, he'll come out and kick your ass, and that's not good.
Or he'll come out and say some deepity.
Yeah, he will. Yeah.
So the great thing about that is that at the end of that fight sequence, they are in front of the door to his office, which is great because it jumps from the center part of the room in the actual dojo scene or the dojo, and then just cuts to this guy about to attack Karen, and then Shuni B just comes out of nowhere and just takes the guy out. And it's the funniest thing because at that point, Karen's pushed up against the door because she's terrified, and then magically jumps from one side of the door to the other. It's just literally the best thing ever.
Well, so the fight then leads into the gym, doesn't it?
Yeah. It goes to the door, back to the gym, and then after everyone's on the ground, they all just disappear.
Well, the fight in the gym is so. Seeing as we were just talking, we were just having a little debate about the talent of Suni. That piece of choreography in the fight is one of many pieces of choreography, but this is the most famous one. He's taken from the film that he's given a nod to, which is Fist of Fury. Bruce Lee's all your martial art heads, movie heads will know that this piece of choreography was so well received that he repeated it in his American debut in Enter the Dragon. But this is the original version, and this is the version that Sonny copied, right? So we've got a clip for that, haven't we?
Yeah.
So you can see, we're going to see how it's done, and then how it's not done. How it's not done.
I do love that end double kick where Shuni B gets just a little bunny hop up the ground and is able to.
He kicks them both in like the top of their ankles.
I will say, and this won't happen very often, but I'll give Justin his due that Shuni B looked pretty damn old in that clip.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not saying he was
lying about his age.
I think he's 75.
Yeah.
He was at.
Did you enjoy that?
At martial arts level or Bruce Lee's level. But like I said, you could tell he
was a Gorkha. He was a Gorkha soldier when he was in his 20s.
He's gawking at people.
He was a Gorkha protector.
Right. So after the fight and everyone magically disappears from the office, Brandon sits down and talks with Karen, and who tells the story about how she ended up at Brandon's back door. 6 months prior to this date, Karen was out celebrating with her friends at the fact they had just graduated college. Nikki, at the bar, is surrounded by thugs, is leering at them. Karen asks, who is this person? And he invites himself over, even though he doesn't know either one or any of the girls at the table. And I think, rather than me trying to talk my way through it, show me that beautiful bean footage, Mr. Producer.
Do it.
Hi. Oh, look who's here. I'm Nikki. Mind if I join in?
I think we're fine by ourselves.
Oh, come on.
I've heard that.
Oh, don't be mean, Karen.
Nikki.
All right, girls, check this out. You know what I got over here? This is what I call partying. You take a little chunk of this, then you're in have fun. You want to have some?
Over it.
All righty, let's goof. Yeah. Nobody will be having an ecstasy moment in here. Yeah? Oh, you got that right. You doing all right? Wash it down. Oh, I'm tired.
I'm feeling kind of
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Wash it down. Wash it down.
What's in this drink?
Come on, boy.
Wash it down. Wash it down.
So, Justin, let me ask you a question. How long does it take for Rohypnol to take effect?
Not as fast as chloroform.
Okay.
All right.
The amount of writing that happened in that short clip was unbelievable.
I absolutely love the fact that Karen was already put off.
By the way, this was Dave's comment on the fight scene.
Yeah, not the date rape.
Not the date rape thing.
So Karen is already trepidatious about Nikki, who comes over and sprinkles an unknown substance into their drinks, which they all drink and then immediately pass out. And Karen's response to this is, as she's going down, is, "Oh, but that wine is so good.
Pops.
Let me get another one." Oh.
Yeah, she has to have another sip of that wine just before she passes out.
Just got to make sure.
Yeah. And I love that. I'm hoping it was an ad-lib line because it was brilliant when he just does the wash it down.
Oh yeah,
it's like what kind of idiot takes another drink of wine when they're clearly being drugged?
And then he does it again. Wash it down.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
That's going to have to be the catchphrase of the show. Wash it down.
So as
I know,
by Nikki,
I know you don't know me, but I just bought you this drink.
Yeah.
Does this rag smell
goofy?
Funny? Yeah.
Let's
Does this rag smell funny?
Let's goof. That's it.
I love it. One thing I noticed the first time, or the second or third time watching this movie, is this seriously seems like through the lens of a foreign audience, a 1950s parody of 1920s gangster movies updated for the modern era. Because while they do terrible things, as in they sex traffic and they kidnap women and all this, none of the stuff they do in the movie is actually that is as bad as it gets. And the way that they talk is just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what this movie made me think is, and this is a comic book reference for Max and all of our comic book friends. So Shuni B had been in a few lower budget movies and had been an extra and had been he had never been a big star, but then he got some money and made this movie, and it's clearly a vanity project. And what it made me think of is if one of the Joker's henchmen got a bunch of money and decided, you know what, I'm the star of this bitch now.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Because everything is just not well done and all about him.
Yes. Oh, yes. And trust me, over the course of this series, we're going to have plenty more examples of that.
Yes.
So after they all get taken back to wherever it is they're taken, Nikki comes to see Karen, and Karen smashes a bottle over Nikki's head and escapes. After apologizing for rambling on with this very concise and tightly told story, Karen asks Brandon to learn Jeet Kune Do for self-defense, who readily agrees to teach her. After
teleporting across the desk.
Yes. Teleporting across the desk.
Yeah.
So Karen asks to borrow a phone to call her father, and then Brandon offers to drive her home, and she calls her ecstatic dad, who thought she was dead, which I swear to God, the guy that did the ADR and the acting for Karen's dad was very clearly drunk the entire time for the shoot.
Yeah.
And for the ADR lines after. It's just amazing.
I just pulled him in off the street and he was in a dressing gown. Just sit down and say, I love you, bye, I love you.
Karen, is that you were dead. But after bringing her home, Brandon drives off, leaving father and daughter to their tearful reunion. And then Brandon heads home to his daughter, where he tells her about how to see someone who isn't really there, i.e., close your eyes and imagine that they're there. He comforts her about her mother, which you'll find out later on that she was actually murdered. Spoiler alert, but I just want to emphasize that every time they talk about her up to this point, it very clearly seems like she's still alive, but somewhere else. Do you miss her, or do you think she'll ever come back? I miss seeing her. I don't know if that's just a language thing or whatever, but
I've only just learned from you that he was murdered.
he gives two different versions of what happened to her. He clearly says to the daughter, one scene when they're to his daughter Dots, that he says 75 times after it never being established that that's a nickname for her. He tells her in the car, in the red car, not the white one, because he changes cars later in the movie. He tells her this thing about how your mother left me and took my son with her and and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's a good point. I missed that.
And the whole thing, now maybe he's just using symbolic language or attempting to use symbolic language, and that, you know, she left me with my son because she was, you know, you find out later in the movie that she was pregnant when she was murdered. But later the murders, the sex trafficking and murder plot comes up late. But so there's two different versions of what happened to his wife.
So it's like very clear. This is a reference to the Joker from The Dark Knight. And never her backstory.
Yeah,
which,
you know,
by
I
the
get
way,
the smile.
You want to know how I lost my wife?
By the way, at a certain point, there is music that sounds like it's from The Dark Knight. Spoiler alert: it's from The Dark Knight. Literally, from The Dark Knight.
Yes.
So he comforts her about the mother. Brandon.
He doesn't though, Justin.
No, yes, he does. He
tells her to get over it.
Oh, well, that's his way of comforting. Tough love, all right?
He basically tells her, your mother's gone, get over it.
He tells her to deal with it and get over it.
Yeah, he does. He doesn't comfort her.
Tell your daughter to get over losing her mother while I sit there and continue to whinge about it. What's in bed?
Von Smoot might be onto something.
What's that?
Von Smoot might be onto something.
What's that?
Is the mystery of the wife the actual plot?
No, because that implies that this movie has a plot.
I've watched this film twice, and I only just realised that she was murdered. I must have missed that part.
So once in bed, Shooty B, or Brandy, excuse me, reminisces about his wife, talking about her sweet fragrance. And
the fragrance. I got a quote. I wrote it on my phone. The sweet fragrance coming out of your body. Now, if she was murdered, that could be a very bad fragrance.
Yeah.
But what fragrance is he talking? Like, did she fart in bed a lot? Like, what's the deal?
I assume that's something that got lost in translation. Something like, I love your beautiful smell. To be fair, my wife has a beautiful fragrance that comes out of her body, but that's just because she uses little brand perfume, which sounds amazing, surprisingly.
Oh, that's nice.
Right? Fortunately, I could see all those nice things.
Sorry.
Calm down over there. So after this, we cut to Nicky get chastised by his boss for losing Karen and the hard drive, which I love this. He's like, I don't care about Karen. I just care about the hard drive, i.e. the books from the Untouchables. But yet it's never brought up again.
The MacGuffin.
Brutal, i.e. poor man's Chuck Liddell, the boss's partner, threatens to pull his support unless they tighten up the ship.
Yes.
Nicky reassures his boss that they have it well in hand and to unironically says in the dialogue to chillax. Yeah. I got this.
Chillax. I think the other thing that's missing a bit, because I think you find out later, or there's some allusion to it at some point in the movie, but very glossed over. I think the boss is actually his dad.
So that's what I was just about to say. Boss is not impressed and tells him that Bruto's is key to their going international with their business because we respect local businessmen and homegrown sex trafficking organizations. I mean,
yeah, of course.
Really just farm to table.
Let's buy local.
That's fantastic. Buy local. So, but you're absolutely right. So in this, at the end of this scene, the boss, who we later found his name is Greco, says to him, just as an FYI, son, da-da-da-da-da, and you think, oh, that's just a diminutive for a younger member in the crime organization. You know, you get called son by someone who's older than you. Chris calls me son all the time. And then, as he storms out, he goes, Jesus, old man, da-da-da-da-da, about bitching about this old guy. So,
I mean, look at the three of us. I'm clearly the youngest.
Sure you are.
You're the last one with hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last man standing.
Yeah.
But I just want to call attention to this later, because as Chris mentions, later on in the movie, he references the fact that this is his son. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
And when I watched it again, I'm like,
Can we also take a minute?
Where you watch it multiple times, you piece things together that you missed the first time around.
Can we also just take a minute to talk about how horrendous the names of these villains are?
Oh, Brutal, like, Greco.
Nicky is just like the most stereotypical like Italian mobster name, right?
Yeah.
And then you got Greco, and Brutal is like played wonderfully by Discount Chuck Liddell. is like it's the dumbest villain name I've ever heard.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean,
it's very on the nose, isn't it?
But that's you're not going to question it. You get it right away. Like the name tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, I heard it and I was like, oh yeah, he looks
got it.
This guy, they wanted this guy to look so much like Chuck Liddell that they even had the Asian tattoos on the side of his head.
Oh my God. Look, I do not. The only thing I know about MMA is the fact that it somehow takes place in an octagon. I think. Yes. But
most of it.
I love the fact that I saw that and I'm like, that's not Chuck Liddell. I looked it up. Like, no, that's poor man's Chuck Liddell.
He actually was. He actually was Chuck Liddell's double in the movie Altitude.
Oh, there we go. Then.
Yeah.
So Greco now calls Brutal to reassure him that he has handled the situation. Brutal is not impressed, but they continue to work together as he sends his hookers to work the street. Nikki is announcing and doing blow, waiting for his guide to return from finding Karen. However, they returned having handled a pretty brutal beating because this is just after the fight in the dojo. And Nikki that one person was able to fight them.
Tell me, I already Googled it.
No, that's later in the movie.
I'm just gonna say it. It's gonna become a tagline for this show from now on.
Trust me, you don't need to tell me anything. I already Googled it.
That and Von Smoot has made a great suggestion for us that we should have our first T-shirt merch be "Don't besmirch the good name of Shooty B."
That's our first patron saint of this show, Shooty B, the defender of the innocent. The shorter guy claims that he is an absolute quote unquote badass. Nikki tells him to stop fucking around and go out and find her. Listening to the boss, the three guys take 3 different areas of LA and break off to find Brandon. We then cut to a scene of Maya in math's class, sitting in what is very clearly the best basement a church has to offer when she is challenged by a math problem on the chalkboard by her teacher. Every other person in the class, or child in the class, passes up, and one of the kids, remember this person, passes it to Maya to tell Mrs. Crosswhite that she can handle it. Maya, after crying out of humility,
yes, Mrs. Crosswhite,
is able to answer right away, which draws praise from the teacher, but also sarcastic comments from the students. After school, Brandon surprises Maya by picking her up from the playground, which I love the fact that nobody questions the fact that this creepy guy is stalking a girl in the playground and surprises her. She tells him about her day and how much she loves math class, which he agrees with because Brandon says that she is the best in math in the family. And they decide to go get ice cream at 31 Flavors Baskin Robbins. And I think we have some beautiful bean footage.
We do.
Producer. Going.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Maya.
Welcome back to the store, sir.
Thank you very much. How you doing?
What can I get for you?
May I have the Oreos, cookies, and cream, please?
All right. Here you go.
All right, Maya, get your ice cream now.
And now for you. Enjoy.
Hey, Avery. Hey, Mia.
Hi, Jasmine.
Hi.
I gotta go to teach. Would you mind giving Maya a ride?
Of course. I'd be delighted to.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome,
I
Brandon.
really appreciate it. All right, Maya, you're gonna have a ride with Jasmine.
And believe it or not, that is an actual scene in a film. Somebody made that into a film. I just love the bloke that serves them ice cream. Okay, bye now.
Okay.
Here is your ice cream.
Here is your ice cream. Thank you.
So happy.
Jesus.
But the happiest man in LA.
But the thing is that I will say this. This is one of those examples of how everybody knows him. Everybody's impressed by him. He walks in. He's like, hey, welcome back to the shop. Fist bump. You want some ice cream? Fist bump. Oh, you want mango? Fist bump. It's just incredible.
Rewatch that first part again, because when he says how you doing and he fist bumps him, he just takes on a New York accent for that for that part. He goes, how you doing?
Does he really?
Yeah, check it out.
Here, I'll play it again real quick.
How you doing?
Hi, guys.
Hi, Maya.
Welcome back to the store, sir.
Thank you very much. How you doing?
Thank you very much. How you doing?
Thank you very much. How you doing?
Hey, say hi to your mother for me.
Hey, can we get a pizza over here?
How you doing?
I need some ice cream over here. Oh God! So
I reckon all the budget just went on Sly Stallone just to fucking say that one part that he could cut into the film.
Definitely. So after this, Brandon, as he mentioned, Brandon had to go teach. So after they leave the school, two things happen that we didn't show in the clip. One, they're not realizing that they're actually being tailed by Nikki's thugs, and two, Karen pulls up to the dojo. So at the dojo, Brandon shows Karen how to defend herself using Jeet Kune Do. And after a bit of sparring back and forth, she eventually gains the upper hand and forces Brandon to capitulate, indicating that she has become proficient in self-defense in one afternoon. Which I want to say, for someone who's just learning, she's pretty freaking good.
Justin,
I didn't do it.
Is he really teaching her Jeet Kune Do?
I'm sorry, hold on a second. Let me try this again. You're right.
Yes.
Teaching her
Yes.
Jeet Kune Do.
We have a clip.
We do.
We have a clip of what he's actually teaching her, and I don't think it's Jeet Kune Do.
I'm taking pointers from Shuni B on this.
Yeah. Check this out.
Just realize you were.
You all right? You did great job. I'm proud of you. That was good.
At least you can get me some water.
Of course. You all right? Just a minute.
Why does it cut to his
owner music?
Yeah, just like cuts right to his bicep. And Dave, your question about why is it all dubbed? We talked about that earlier, probably before you were on. Every bit of dialogue in this movie is ADR'd because he didn't know how to mic a room, so they just did all of the dialogue in post.
Yes, I do love when you take that clip out of context. It's like, man, Shooty B gets pretty spry after sex for an old guy. Just fucking rolling around in there.
Yeah, it does. It looks like this. Great.
Although I do love it.
I love the little ninja monkey roll.
Yeah. So they're both sitting there. She's like, well, the least thing you could do is get me a glass of water. He's like, fine. Cut to the exterior shot, cut back, and they have water. And I was just like, did Shooty B just not want to get up for that? So force somebody else to go get it?
The sound effect for her drinking as well. It's like a 3-year-old drinking a cup of tea. She's not going.
Well, I mean, she just got done with that sound effect. Let's be honest.
Dave, you might want to consult your Better Business Bureau and talk about your jiu-jitsu coach. Just gonna throw that out there.
Hey, or give him a good review on Yelp.
Or give him a good review on Yelp.
So after they're done training, Brandon and Karen head to his office to have further discussions. Brandon now receives a phone call from Randy, a famous MMA fighter who wants to train with him. He gives the exact location of his dojo, which was confirmed by Chris on Google, and they set up to meet that Saturday to train.
Oh, it's better. Not only does he give the exact location of his dojo in real life,
yes,
in the dialogue of the film, in a scene that I like to call how to put a non sequitur into your movie. He also, if you go to IMDb and look at the filming location, where most places would say like Southern California or Los Angeles, this gives the exact street address of where the movie was filmed. And if you go into Google Maps, it takes you to Shuni B Martial Arts Academy. So this whole movie is an hour and 20-minute long commercial for Shuni B Martial Arts Academy.
So if you want to date, get down there.
There you go. Shooty B is a tender lover and a forgiving teacher.
Yeah.
So after this, Karen invites Brandon to. Oh yes, and also by the way, that's absolutely correct. This is literally the low-budget freeware version of the Halloween theme from John Carpenter. Just gonna throw that out there. So after this, Karen invites Brandon to dinner with her and her father. Asks him to go out to dinner with her and her father. However, in fact, they decide to have dinner at the house. So Karen sets the table for dinner with Brandon. He shows up late, which he claims is due to LA traffic. And Karen welcomes him in, and her dad tells him to take a seat. Once they're sitting at the table, Karen's dad calls for an incredibly enthusiastic toast, which is amazing because, as we said, the actor was very clearly drunk for all of the shooting of this movie.
He had a lot of toasts that day.
A lot of toast that day. So he says, let's have a toast. Everyone's like, yeah, let's have a toast. And Brandon's like, toast, cheers. And then Karen's like, cheers. And he's like, cheers. It's just like, no, let's just not do that. The dad then again thanks him again for saving his daughter's life from the traffickers, and Brandon then launches into a word salad soliloquy about how everyone should just help each other and make the world a better place. After that, he looks at his phone, hangs up, and says that he has to take off without even touching his food or finishing his drink, and just leaves. Kara walks him out, and at that point, they sit on the porch, and she touches his arm, and once again, we get the magical Shooting Bee boner music.
So I think that should become our new soundtrack.
Yeah. So Brandon heads home to meet up with his daughter, which is the important person he has to meet up with. So he rings the doorbell for his own home so that Maya will let him into the house. And Maya surprises him with a giant dog. Evidently, the dog was trying to let itself in, and Maya decides to do so and asks if they can keep him.
This is a great Dane, by the way. There's a great Dane.
It has a collar.
Massive,
yeah,
massive animal,
like a human. Like a human is making the panting sound.
And he's not even remotely phased. There's this great Dane in his house.
I'm convinced that that's the Bee family dog.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody else in the family is in the fucking movie. Why not?
Yeah.
So, but tells her that someone out there is very likely looking at her by the fact that there's actually a collar around his neck. Brandon tells Maya that she can keep him for tonight and that he must go in the morning. Now, I want to say this as we continue through. If this sounds like we're just jumping from random scene to random scene, this movie is just that. It's just random scenes strung together that have absolutely no continuity between them. Yeah. And their order, it's like a magic eye thing, where the only time an order is after you got absolutely insane and watched it 6 or 7 times in a row. Then it starts to make sense.
Yeah, so, or you'd have to be like blitzed and like baked out of your mind for this movie to be fun, to make sense. It is a fun movie, but for it to make sense.
So the next day, poor man's Chuck Liddell, or Brutal, inspects his women before they go out to make money that night. And this is literally just a 3-minute long non sequitur where the women go out, walk the streets, get accosted. The guy gets kicked away with a gun to his face. They ready themselves by taking drugs. Then the client picks them up and takes them to a shake, and then they all have a great time, and they go off for a night of partying. That same night, while this is all going on, which I don't know if these two are connected, but whatever, that night Maya has a dream about the dog trying to get inside, and she thinks that this means that she is missing her mother. So on the way to school the next day, she asks Brandon if he still misses her mom. Brandon relapses into a depressive state, thinking about his missing and or dead wife. Maya lets the subject go when she tells that they are, and decides to go to school. This is on the playground. The boys from Maya's class demand that she turns over her homework. When she refuses, the leader sets his underlings on her. Yeah. And I swear to God, you have not lived until you have watched a little girl cold cock a 6-year-old in the face. Just straight up haymakers, just right to the dome. Just arch in.
Katie, the dog doesn't actually mean that she's missing her mother. That's some bullshit that Justin came up with.
Oh no, that's
the dog means that they needed to get their family dog in the damn movie.
Yeah, no, that's what Maya says.
I don't believe it.
Yeah,
I don't believe it's in the movie. I don't believe it either, Chris. I
don't either.
Maya is able to fight everybody off, but the fight is broken up by the arrival of Mrs. Crosswhite. And I love this because this is how a teacher should react to a fist fight between her students. Miss Crosswhite first says, A, they were asking for it and had it coming. B, asks if Maya is okay. And C, tells Maya that she is the black belt and needs to be responsible and be careful because she might accidentally hurt the other kids. So after the fight, Maya's principal calls her dad into the office to discuss what happened.
Oh, wait a second. What, that scene in the principal's office?
Yes.
And the teacher saying, "Oh, they had it coming. You should just be more careful." They are literally one cut away from each other.
Oh yeah, literally.
So you go from, "Oh, this teacher's kind of cool, and she's going to cut Maya some slack," to the teacher dimed her out, ratted her out to the principal, and called her dad.
Well, no.
That
So
fast.
I think what happened was that the teacher's hand was forced because she says in that scene with the principal that one of the boys' mother called and he had a fractured wrist. So.
Okay.
So, but don't worry, it's fine because Maya doesn't get in trouble. Both the teacher and the principal agree that A, Maya is very talented, B, is very wise, and C, is a very important student. Brandon understands that she was just defending herself, but tells her that she is the quote lethal weapons and must be careful and take responsibility to not hurt the other kids.
I researched this. There is only one United States territory where a martial arts black belt is considered a weapon that has to be registered, and it is Guam.
How bizarre. People say that shit all the time, don't they?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Brandon Lee says that shit all the time.
Yeah.
So, after Maya promises to be more careful and leaves to go back to class, the principal and teacher are both absolutely thankful to Brandon for his knowledge and wisdom and for the good example that he sets for Maya and let's be honest, the good example he sets for everybody else in the world.
I wish we had a clip of that scene because the principal's nameplate is clearly a notebook where they wrote the principal's name in pen.
Yes.
And then
very clearly.
And then turned the notebook over to, and then there's even a shot where it's behind the principal and you can clearly see that it's like a silver notebook.
Oh, I totally missed that.
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Well, because you would think, you can't be that cheap. You could afford like a $5 nameplate from freaking Walmart,
or just not have one. It's like they thought, a principal would have a nameplate. Hey, grab a notebook.
That's fine. It's fine. No one noticed.
Oh, brilliant.
So Brandon being so humble because that's just that man he is. Thanks them both for being a positive influence in Maya's life and heads off to his next appointment, i.e., his date with Karen. As Brandon heads to his next appointment, his commute is interrupted by the filming of Everest Dragon, a young kid doing a music video playing with nunchucks on Hollywood Boulevard.
Jeet Kune Do!
No, he says Taekwondo.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, which is funny because Taekwondo doesn't use nunchucks.
And Taekwondo has nothing to do with Bruce Lee. Did Jeet?
No,
and it's Korean.
Yes.
What the?
Yes.
Von Smoot says maybe the movie took place on Guam. Do we know the fictional location? Von Smoot,
Good point,
he
Von.
gives the address to his dojo and says on the corner of such and such and such and such in Pasadena. The movie clearly takes place in Southern California, not Guam.
Yes. I mean, I appreciate the effort. I appreciate us trying to cut some slack, and also all of our establishing shots are of LA.
Yeah.
But he's able to make it through his
asking
case daily, so that's fine.
Man. He's asking the proper questions.
Yeah,
he is. Good. Yeah, definitely.
So Karen and Brandon meet at the Griffith Observatory for their date. Karen tries to give Brandon some advice to make him look better, but it fails miserably, i.e. tell him, hey, you should smile, you look better, which he then turns to her and goes,
yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
man.
So
I hated that bit. It made me feel really uncomfortable.
The whole Griffin Observatory scene was just so cringe.
Because then she asks him about his wife, or who's.
Because there's a picture of his wife in his office, and so she asked him about
that is, and that's
the
when we
woman
get
in
the
the picture.
backstory of while he was away fighting in Afghanistan, she was kidnapped by human
as a Gorkha.
As a Gorkha, fighting in Afghanistan, and she was kidnapped by human traffickers and murdered. Brandon feels guilty about leaving her, and that's the last that we hear of it. And then she tries to comfort him. But what they don't notice at this point,
I haven't got clips for. Isn't that long a period as well? Like all of this is happening in a very condensed.
Everything in this movie happens in a condensed. The whole movie is an hour and 20 minutes.
It sounds like I've missed a load of shit out, like for the clips, but it's just so much.
Oh yeah. No, this is like rapid. Once again, we're not chopping stuff out of the synopsis. We're not chopping anything out. This is literally just bop, 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 bop. Everything just happens. No, let's not do that because everyone will end up dead. I don't want that.
I think we've just I think we've just invented our first Snob and Slobs drinking game.
Gorkha.
Gorkha.
So, what they don't notice though is the two thugs in black suits hiding behind a novelty tourist telescope and then reporting back to Nikki that they had found him. Nikki now reports to Brutal at his gym where he's watching his women train in MMA, and he is not impressed with the fact that there's only one person throwing a wrench into their, incredibly complicated and intricate sex trafficking schemes. Brutal tells Nikki to fix it, and then tells his manager to prepare the ring for the fight between Fix it! Between Brutal and his Gorkha. He then tells them to go fix the situation. Gorkha. We cut to Maya waiting after school with her friends. They all leave one by one, eventually leave her alone to wait for her father. Brutal's thugs show up, and they try to coerce her to get into the van. Which I love is that when one of the thugs gets out of the passenger door of the van, this is such an accurate representation because I'm pretty sure that every gangster or sex trafficker's van the door is filled with takeout menus, garbage, detritus, and receipts.
And a guy who looks like Nick Cave.
And a guy who looks like Nick Cave. So when she gets suspicious, they eventually attack her. She was able to fight them off and go off on a wild foot chase through the school, which I love the fact nobody's at this school to see that this poor girl's getting chased by two grown-ass men.
Well, we finally have a clip.
Yes.
Of this.
Roll that beautiful beam footage, Mr. Producer.
High-octane action. Incredible martial arts.
I do love
more teleporting.
This is something I noticed the last couple of times I watched this movie. The Brandon and his family are very concerned about not leaving their possessions behind because every time they go somewhere, they pick up all their clothing items, no matter what's going on.
They do.
Carry it with them. So she's like, these two grown-ass men are trying to kidnap me. Make sure I bring my backpack and my jacket because my dad will probably
can't lose those
if I leave those behind.
What gets me every time she tries to do a little parkour parts, every route she takes is slower than just running round it.
Yeah, like the sliding down the stair.
Justin actually said that.
Sliding down the stairway, hopping across the seats, even like the cartwheel over the bed.
Yeah, Justin actually said that. Like each step while we were watching it last Friday, every step of the way, Justin was like, "It'd be faster to go around." You're not going any faster. Slide down that handrail.
And then when they catch up, it's right at the end of the clip. But when they finally catch up to her, when they're running across them seats, the music it sounds like a motor starting. It goes,
oh yeah,
and it's like they've got motors.
Oh god, I'll be honest. Like you could have a 30-minute conversation on the music selection for this movie alone. And how it doesn't match the tone, it doesn't work with the scenes, but yet they pick it, and yet it oddly works with the scenes. I don't know. It's just incredible.
I also love that. Like that scene was much longer. We condensed it down, but the whole thing goes on and on and on and on and on, and then in the end, she just ends up in the van anyway, and they kidnap her. The whole thing was like,
so very clearly, this was a chase, through the school grounds to this amphitheater. And they capture her on the stage, and then they just cut right back to the van.
Right back to shoving her in the van. Like the whole thing,
So we cut after they kidnapped Maya. We cut back to Brutal's women training in the octagon and in the boxing ring. He then tells them, to their excitement, that he has a plan to make it big. Women's MMA fighting championship.
I've dreamed about fighting in a cage.
Now, remember, this movie was made in 2020. Justin, I think you researched and found out that the first female MMA fight in the United States was like 1995 or something like that.
1997.
Yeah, 97.
Yeah, in the first.
And even if you consider that it wasn't very well known in the 90s, like by the time 2020 came along and he made this movie, Ronda Rousey had been a thing, and like she had already done her MMA career and then
left
her WWE career and then retired from that.
Yeah,
Gina Carano, all of the it's like well known in martial arts circles that women's MMA is a thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like I said, I love it too. Like,
this is very true, Katie. The film feels like it's set in the 90s. That's absolutely true.
A lot of these movies do.
Yeah. So what's great about this too is like if you watch MMA fighting, and like I said, I don't know it that well, but I've seen a couple of fights here and there. It's like it's a brutal
Good
sport,
point,
whether
Matt.
it's men or women fighting. And I love how the women in the scene are like, oh yeah, people pay lots of money to watch two girls cuddle up in a cage. I'm like, no, that's not cuddling.
No, they beat the shit out of each other.
They beat the living shit out of each other. Yeah,
like holy shit.
Yeah.
So as he's sitting in the back room telling his girls about how they're going to start an MMA female fighting championship to their excitement, Maya's brought in by Nikki's thugs, and he takes her phone to call Brandon and tell him that's been kidnapped. As this is happening, Karen meets up with Brandon at his dojo and asks him if he can drive him to go pick up Maya. Which, I mean, that seems like it's moving pretty quick. Yeah, that's cool. Just bring the girlfriend along.
Also, the guy has 2 cars. Like
Hey, that dojo's making money. He's getting world-class MMA fighters wanting to train at his gym. So they arrive at the school and can't find her, which is when Brandon receives the phone call from Brutal. Brutal tells him to give up Karen in exchange for Maya. When Brandon refuses this and tells him that he will find him, he will hunt him, and he will kill him, Brutal then challenges Brutal to a fight, winner takes all. I.e., if Brandon wins, they're let go. If Brutal wins, that Maya and Brandon both die. Yeah. So what I love about this is like at the end of that phone call, you're like, "What did we agree to the fight?
Yeah, are we rumbling? What's going on?
What's going on here? Look, leadership is all about giving purpose, direction, and motivation. You got to be clear about this type of stuff. You can't be ambiguous." After this, Bruno once again reiterates to his manager to prep his gym against the fight, or for the fight against the Gorkha. So, after reminiscing about Maya and more of the word salad philosophy that he tosses her way, he meets up with Karen's dad, who pulls up outside back of the dojo. I love the fact that as Karen's dad pulls up to the dojo, he's very clearly listening to a UFO radio show.
Yeah.
In his car.
Yeah.
It's literally the dialogue or the line is literally, it's time for the Air Force to stop denying the existence of these craft and to get the truth about what is really out there. And I'm just like, rock on, like the man. So as they're talking about it and wondering where Karen's actually at, a man comes out and stabs Karen's dad and kills him. Brandon chases down the killer and then has an extended fight with him using kukri in an area with storage sheds. And if I remember correctly, we have a clip for this.
Justin, what's a kukri?
No. A kukri is the curved dagger famously used by Gorkha soldiers.
Gorkha!
Man, I'm not gonna lie, Chris just teed you up for that one.
Snob, I can see you thinking, but I can't see you drinking.
Here's the clip.
I'm out.
Gorkha. Right, that scene culminated in peak chicken noise. Did you catch it?
Oh yes.
It's the best one in the whole. No, it's the.
Oh yeah,
it's the best one in the whole film.
Oh yes.
After he wipes red sauce on his arm with his knife.
What I absolutely love is there was about 4 or 5 times in that fight where Shuni B could have ended it. Like that's how bad the choreography is. Like, at no point like actually a contest. There's actually 3 or 4 times in that fight he could have just ended the fight. He could have just stabbed him with his head or whatever.
I mean, you do fencing, or you have done. It's the whole thing was just I'm going to put my knife out so that you can then touch it, and then you put yours out, and then I'll touch it, and then
it's the worst. It's the worst type of fight choreography where it's like good fight choreography.
I've seen
like a natural flow.
I've seen cosplayers with lightsabers at a Comic-Con have a better fight scene than that one.
I've seen that as well.
Oh yes, well that's what I mean. Like good fight choreography has like a natural flow to it. It looks like actual combat. Like you have 2 people trying to actually get the best out of each other. This is literally like you're saying. That's that worst kind of that like set hit choreography. So as he finishes him and kicks him in the chest, he runs off. Brandon chases him, running like a duck. But loses him as the
like
other
Phoebe
guy
on Friends.
Brandon meets up with Karen to console her after her father's death. But knowing how he's injured and the chance to get physically close to him, she gets over it pretty quickly and bandages up his arm.
Now, hang on a second, because I want to point out that for the next about 10 minutes or however long it takes us to get through the rest of the movie, I want everybody to understand that not once does Shuni B go after his daughter. There's gonna be stuff that he goes and does, like hanging out with Karen and putting the moves on her and getting bandaged up. Like the whole time, Justin's yelling at the TV, "Brandon, where's your daughter? Brandon, where's your daughter?
Where's your daughter?"
You know, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So as Brandon's about to leave, Nikki calls him on the phone that evidently he picked up from the guy that dropped it. I don't know. Anyway, so he has a phone from one of the henchmen. He asks him how he got this number, and Brandon tells him, "Oh yes, oh yes."
That might be the comment.
Worry.
I think that's the comment
that whole
of the
scene
night.
is just amazing.
That's coming up. That's the comment of the night.
So he asks him to worry about his life. Nikki challenges him, and Brandon takes off after her. Brandon gets to the house where Nikki's henchman is at, and he decides to do a little bit of drone reconnaissance with a little $20 target drone. Shoots over, and then what you think will happen is a little bit of stealthy, kind of ninja-esque action. Nope, he just jumps into the middle of them. They all start fighting.
Yeah.
So, if you're thinking that this takes place in a massive, well-manicured mansion, you are wrong. This fight scene takes place in a garden that literally looks like the white trashiest part of southern Alabama transported to California. It has garbage, old lawn furniture. I think it has a car up on blocks. I don't know.
To be fair, I've been in gardens like that in Southern California, so they do exist.
Well, obviously. So he gets in and fights off a group of guys. They all attack him with, and I quote, baseball bats, a solid trading sword, a flexible trading sword, bow staff, garden implements. I think there was a hockey stick involved. I don't know.
And they're all working out in the back garden before he arrives as well.
Yeah.
They're all working out, fully suited.
Yeah, and Nikki's wearing a wife beater, if I recall.
Red wife beater and black sweatpants.
Yeah.
So after he defeats all the thugs, he now notices that Nikki's been doing splits and stretching in the corner of the back garden.
For the whole time, and it's not a short fight scene.
The whole fight scene.
But the best thing about this is like he's fighting. They don't cut to Nikki at all. Like they don't show him in the back garden. There's no establishing shot of him being there. He just defeats everybody, and then he cuts to him.
And he's on the floor doing the splits, going ha ha.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Von Smoot, said that it's like The Bride versus the Crazy 88.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Yeah.
We do have a clip of that, I think.
Do we have a clip of that one?
We do. Final fight.
No,
that's not Final Fight. Final Fight's coming up.
Yeah.
No, this isn't the final fight. We've still got more.
Don't worry.
Okay.
Oh, wait. This is literally the Billy Mays of bad kung fu action.
Hang on, Justin.
The clip is from that fight.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Let's show it.
We labeled it wrong. Okay, hang on.
Sorry.
Here we go.
My bad.
I kept having to take my earbud out while that clip was playing because I thought my neighbor's dog was barking, and then I realized that it's a dog barking in the background. It's in the background of the clip.
Oh, incredible! You could tell that they were using a cheap camera with a poor shutter speed because when he's spinning his nunchucks, you notice that bending effect, the propeller effect, or the bending propeller effect with the spinning nunchucks. That's because the shutter speed is not set to the right speed, and it's capturing the entire wave of motion in one shot. So instead of getting a crisp, clear action or crisp, clear cut, it's moving too fast for the shutter, and you can see that bendy effect.
I just really love the fact that that character was sitting there, was doing the splits, waiting for him the whole time, like with his legs out like that, just doing that. Fucking hell, come on, mate, finish. And then as soon as he turned around, he went, whoa!
You're like, yep, it's fucking on. So he finishes that fight by effectively subduing him in an armbar and breaks his arm. So after this, we cut back to Shuni B's daughter escaping from her kidnappers. And she does the great thing where she's running away from her kidnappers and then trips over nothing and waits for the thugs to come grab her. Because they're just pissed off with her, they decide to drug her with like a massive gauge needle full of windshield wiper fluid, because that's a thing, and inject her and knock her out and talk about how she's not going to give them any more trouble. So after this scene where Shuni B's daughter has just been drugged, we cut to, as you referenced earlier, Katie, the Chinese scene with Shuni B. And not only after the trauma, so after the fight scene against Nikki, he lets a bunch of women out of the house, which I think is supposed to be Karen's friends.
Yeah.
And so after the trauma of forced addiction, sex trafficking, sexual assault, physical assaults, all these different things, they decide that not only are they going to get back together for a night out and dinner, they're going to go to the same restaurant, sit in the same seats, and sit at the same table that they were at when they got drugged and kidnapped. But don't worry, they learned their lesson because they're all drinking water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's Shuni B sitting in the spot where Nikki was sitting in the beginning of the film.
Which is symbolic of a new father figure coming in.
And this is the same
new students.
Yeah. They're all like, "Oh, train us." This is also the one when when he's given his deepity speech, and he says, "That is a saying in my country.
Yes.
If you teach a man to fish, or if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. You teach a man to fish, he'll eat for life." And then he ends it with, "or something like that."
Yeah.
It's like, hey, everyone has that saying. He says. Everyone has. But what I love this too.
Like, that's not a saying in your country. That's a saying everywhere.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and they're all like, "Oh, Shuni B, we thank you so much for giving us our life back. Could we please teach us how to defend ourselves using martial arts? Please."
In case you needed a reminder, Shuni B wrote this movie.
Yeah.
And seriously, at this point too, it's like, Shuni B, Brandon, where's your daughter at? Come on, what you doing? What are you doing? So after this, there is a second training sequence, which is literally just a recut version of the same training sequence, which is just women fighting men
in hoods,
them to the ground, and then jumping on their back and in true Jeet Kune Do fashion, just slapping them on the back.
Yeah.
Oh. So
Brilliant.
after this, we cut to Brutal at the pool in his backyard, where there's a raucous party going on.
Greco,
yeah. A raucous party in his backyard with a DJ, one or two women in bikinis, a bunch of guards, and a bunch of his thugs. And he's sitting at some, $200 set of Walmart lawn furniture. As he's sitting there, he's talking about how Brutal is going to come and talk to them about their work arrangement, but instead he sends his effectively Julia, or Natasha, excuse me, his second woman in command, and hands him a phone. And Brutal tells him that he is tired of how they've handled the situation, and now he is taking over and he's doing it their way.
And this is when the best line in the entire film is when Greco tells him, this guy isn't just a badass. Do you know he's a Gorkha soldier? And Brutal just says, you don't even have to tell me that. I already Googled him.
Gorkha.
And what's even the best is that he says, you don't have to tell me that. I already Googled him. And then right after there's the dramatic music scene.
I already Googled him.
So after he hangs up, and so you've just received news that your absolutely brutal business partner is effectively taking over your organization. You are now on the rocks with him, and now you don't know where this guy is that's fucking with your business. What do you decide to do at this point? Go swimming.
Sure.
With a rubber duck in the pool, a giant rubber ducky, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So
that was a nice touch, though, actually.
One of Nikki's. So at this point, one of Nikki's henchwomen has somehow, which we don't see, has captured Brandon and brings him to Greco to fight.
It actually looks like Brandon has, again, we don't see it, but it actually looks like Brandon has maybe agreed to come there, and that they've like blindfolded him so he can't find where the hideout is or whatever. But yeah, it's never explained.
It's never explained. But the thing is, though, is like you've blindfolded him, but you don't secure his arms or his legs. Like,
yeah, that's a problem.
I mean, it's not really. I mean, he proceeds to have a fight with the big boss with the blindfold on, and it's not really explained why he just doesn't take the blindfold off.
No, so exactly. So what happens after this point is after Greco has told him that he has beat up his son, i.e. Nikki, which comes out of nowhere. Which Nikki is sitting there with his arm in a hilarious 1920s style cloth bandage cast, which is literally just a handkerchief tied around his neck and it's holding his arm up. And they decide to have a fight, and Shuni B, because he's an absolute badass, fights blindfolded.
Hell yeah, he does.
Fights blindfolded, which is just
he does really well.
He does really well, but at no point is like his hands are tied. He's at a disadvantage. No, it's like Shuni B, take the mask off. You can take the mask off.
Yeah, your hands are free. You can take this. You can remove the blindfold at any time. Your hands aren't tied.
It was too easy for him.
This is why, because this is why he left the blindfold. Because when he takes the mask off, he spends 15 seconds waiting because his eyes are not adjusted to the sunlight.
Yeah.
It's like
So he finally fights and beats up Greco, and at this point, Natasha takes the phone, who has been trying to avoid the fight this entire time, calls Brutal and tells him that they're fighting, and that that Greco's getting beat up, and then Brutal runs to the front, or Greco runs to the front, and then Shuni B chases him to the front, where they have a nunchuck katana face-off.
Because of course they do.
Because reasons. And they do the Star Wars thing where they literally sit, and I think I counted it, for a good 50 seconds, just spinning their weapons at each other.
Yeah.
I remember saying to Justin that this is when you notice the brilliance of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there's the scene where the guy is swinging the sword around, and then Indy just pulled, because he's expecting Indy to do the whip because they've seen him use the whip earlier in the movie. Yeah. And the guy swinging the sword, and Indy just pulls his gun out, shoots him, and walks away.
Yes.
They're like, Where is that guy? Where's the guy that's just going to pull out a gun and shoot somebody?
Yeah.
It's America, for crying out loud.
So Brandon and Greco fight, and Brandon eventually gains the upper hand by wrapping a nunchuck around his sword and slices his own throat. Now, I do want to just brilliant. At this point, he walks up to Natasha, who's standing behind the car with her phone, talking to Brutal and telling him how he's just killed Greco. You cut back, you see Greco's body lying on the ground, Brandon walking towards the camera, and then there's this woman walking with the pram, walking right behind the fight, looking at
the with the pushchair right behind.
Yeah, she's right at the bottom of the drive, isn't she?
And she fully lost like eye contact with freaking Greco on the ground. She's like, look, this isn't my battle. I'm out of here. I'm good.
It was great.
So Shooty B takes Natasha tells Brutal that Shooty B has killed Greco. Natasha hands the phone to Shooty B and says, hey, do you want to see what we've done to your little girl? And shows him a video of his daughter being drugged, which is literally just the footage shot for the movie, artificially downsized to quote unquote fit the phone screen. And at this point, without any further ado,
Listen up, coward. I'm coming after you. I'm gonna track you, find you, and destroy you and your kingdom. Yeah.
So the first one we saw there was Bruce Lee's Fist of Fury, where he runs and sacrifices himself after taking on the system. And the second one we see there is Shunny B jumping down his drive, presumably to fly kick that woman with the pram.
Yes.
Because there's absolutely no reason for him to just sprint and do a fly kick.
And by the way,
camera at the end of the movie.
And by the way, still hasn't saved his daughter.
Yeah,
still
where's your daughter,
Shunny B?
Don't worry, we're getting Fight of Fury 2, Annihilation.
Annihilation.
So
I really hope that the new film starts exactly where this one ends.
I mean,
with Shunny B in midair, and then he falls flat on his ass, and
no, he just lands, and then
just lands like, oh,
yeah, he just lands, then gets his keys out, gets in his car, and drives off, and you see the whole thing.
So this is what's great. So at the end of Fist
all
of Fury,
of us were that way the first time seeing this movie, Katie.
So at the end of Fist of Fury, the ending has built up to this point where either A, Bruce Lee's character sacrifices himself and gets executed, which would be a shameful death.
Yes.
Or the school is burnt to the ground. And that scene culminates in him sacrificing his life so he has an honorable death, but defends the honor of his school. And it's this culmination of what's going to happen, and then that's what occurs. He gets his Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid type ending, which is like the culmination of all the drama that's happened in the last 15 minutes. I remember watching this movie and thinking, okay, cool, we're going into the third act. We're about to get after it. It's going to happen. And then
it's so.
And like, wait, what?
What?
And he literally fly kicks you in the face.
If you do not look at the timeline for this movie, you do not realize there's less than 2 minutes left. You're like, everything is building into the fact that we're going to go fight Brutal.
This is a slow build, but all right, we're finally getting there.
We're getting after it. Like, I'm ready for it. And then, no, it just ends.
Yes,
there
Katie.
we go, ladies and gentlemen.
Hang on. To answer Katie's question, yes, there is a sequel in works. I think it's already filming.
Yes.
It's either already filming or it's going to start filming soon. But it is literally called Fight of Fury 2 Annihilation. and we are waiting with bated breath until it comes out so that we can do an episode of the Snob and the Slobs
I
about
don't
the
want
sequel.
him to save his daughter.
I want this to go on for like a 10 movie franchise, and he never actually saves his daughter.
Yeah,
I'd love that.
I want it
That
to
would
just
get me
go
invested.
on and on and on.
Sorry, Shuni B, your daughter's in another castle.
So that's Fight of Fury. We're gonna try a new segment out on the show tonight, and Max is gonna share some of the great reviews that we found on IMDb and perhaps elsewhere on the internet. I'm not sure if they're all from IMDb.
Bear with me. Share system audio.
There we go.
There we go. Right, so there aren't many reviews on IMDb for Fight of Fury, and most of them they range sort of from 1 to 3. But there is one specific one that gave it 10 out of 10. This one here, and I'll just read it for you. And I think we might know who wrote this. Master Shunny B as Brandon is faced with the daring challenges in a crime-filled world that only he can solve. It was a magical experience watching this movie. I love seeing a martial arts instructor that uses his elite fighting style to protect his family. It was cool to see a worldly personality deliver such poetic advice, to believe that his students and daughter benefit greatly from his wise words. Very realistic. His heroic actions in the film kept me on the edge of my seat. That's got to be Shunny B, in it.
There is a 0% chance that was written by anyone other than Shunny B.
I mean, the others sort of. So this is a 1 out of 10. Stop making movies with your kids' pocket money. I just don't get what was the whole point. It just sucks so hard that I can't believe this has been done intentionally. Surely something went horribly wrong somewhere. There has to be some excuse for this lack of any intelligence. A bunch of mentally challenged people are just standing around doing nothing for most of the movie. It is super boring and seems to last forever. The story is mostly not exciting. There is no reason given why people are doing whatever they are doing. It's just a mess of stupidity. Poo on the star writer. He is obviously a friend of cast and crew.
At no point in your incoherent ramblings did you ever approach a point where you were making sense. We are all dumber for having heard that. I award you no points, sir, and God have mercy on your soul.
Well,
okay. So what do we think?
Somewhere in the middle of those two reviews, I think.
Look, all I'm going to say about this is that this is a bad movie that works on so many levels. If you like just kind of hilariously bad, enjoyable movies, you're going to be seeing something every couple of minutes that's going to make you just kind of giggle to yourself at least, if not laugh out loud.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like most bad movies you have to watch with somebody, this you can watch on your own because it's just that funny. And then it works on the next level. It's like if you pay attention to movies and actually kind of know a little bit about storytelling, a little bit about structure, it's hilarious because you see all the disconnectedness and see how everything that kind of breaks down. And then it works on a third level where if you know anything about the technical side of filmmaking, fight choreography, martial arts, things like that, it's hilarious watching just the complete passionate ineptitude of watching this movie. It's just incredible.
Yeah, it's a different film experience, isn't it, than watching a normal film? It's an acquired taste, though. I'll say that. It's definitely an acquired taste.
Von Smoot has a very good point here, and this is a marketing point that we need to make, that if you want to see Fight of Fury 2, please give Fight of Fury your $4 so that we can make this happen. Yeah. We're not even asking for money for ourselves, but please give Shuni B $4 so we can all get Fight of Fury 2.
We are 2 episodes in, and our first financial plug
is for someone else.
Please do that.
I think this movie is a lot of fun. It was much more enjoyable to watch the second time through than Veronica was. Since obviously I didn't watch Veronica the second time through. I just think it's fun. I mean, Justin's right. There's a lot of the levels to it if you understand storytelling and structure and all those things, but it's also just hilarious if you're watching it with someone. And I know all 3 of us watched it with someone else. Justin and I watched it together, and Max watched it with his other half. And it's just so much fun to watch it that way because there's tons of things. I was sitting on my phone taking notes for the show and just laughing, and all my all the everything I was writing on my phone was making me piss myself laughing because it's such a funny movie. It is a lot of fun. I highly recommend if anybody has it.
It's a martial arts epic.
It is. If you haven't seen it, you've got to see it. It's a great movie. And it's not even like last week we said that it had to be experienced cold. You couldn't see Veronica coming. This one, go watch it anyway. Even though we've told you the entire plot and we've showed you a bunch of clips, you'll still you won't be disappointed. It's a good movie.
The clips that we've shown are great, but they do not even begin to scratch the surface of what this movie contains. It's absolutely worth it. Rent it on Prime. Please go watch this movie. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's great. So yeah, I think that's Fight of Fury. So Max, do you have anything to plug this week?
Yes, Wednesday afternoon, 3:00 over here. I don't know what that is, EST, but you'll figure it out. 7 hours before.
5 hours before.
5 hours before, fair enough. Saturday morning cartoons with me and Ben Jackson and Aria Blackness. And I think we're cracking over with Spawn, the animated series this week.
And that's on Saturday, even though you said Wednesday.
Did I say Wednesday?
You did, yeah. This show is Wednesday.
It's the Gorkha drinking. It's ruined my memory.
That's a fun show. I've been on it a couple of times. They talk about different cartoons and animated series. Yeah,
and the links are always open, so you can jump on whenever you want if you want to argue with us, because we're usually talking shit. You can find me on Max Headroom on almost all social media, and check out our comic that we're working on, Roken Fiction on Twitter. And if you check out Indiegogo and check out Roken, ROKAN. And then see if you like it. If you like sword and sandals and wizards and fighting and all that sort of stuff, then
we'll have to
up your alley.
We'll have to pull up some artwork for it next week
to show,
because the artwork for that is amazing. Max paints all of the pages and they look phenomenal. They look fantastic.
Thank you.
Justin, do you have anything?
Nope. I'm super boring. This is me ranting at you guys for an hour and a half about bad movies. Is really my only creative outlet at the moment. But I will say, kind of as I said last week, while I don't have anything to plug myself, my wife is participating in some amateur productions coming up here in the St. Neots area here in the UK. So if you're local, we would really appreciate your support. I'll put out some more details here next week. And then also, if there is amateur production, amateur theater, or art near you, please go support them. As I said last week, COVID has been incredibly difficult on all forms of the art, but especially amateur productions. And these are the people that really have a passion for it and really set aside a lot of personal time to do it on top of maintaining careers and families and other things. So if you get a chance, please go see an amateur show, go support a local band, go see a local art show. But even if you're not paying much or for free, trust me, as someone who participates in that type of realm, we always appreciate the support from our community.
Definitely. And on the live music front, Justin and I have a really close friend that sometimes in the live chat named Devin Arnold, that is the drummer for a band called Lounge Lizards that are playing some local shows in the Peterborough and Stamford area coming up in October. And hopefully we'll have some flyers to hype and promote that in the coming weeks. For me, I am still working on Heavy Hitters with my Canadian girlfriend, and working on some other writing projects. But the other thing I want to plug this week is I'm a big heavy metal fan. You can tell my t-shirts will probably almost always be either heavy metal or comic books. So I just want to hype an independent heavy metal band called Mourning the Fallen. They're really great. They're pretty young. I think they're all about 17 or 18. If you like stuff like Trivium or Gojira, the kind of stuff like that, modern metal, they're really, really good. They've got one album out called, the name is escaping me. They've got one album out, full album, and then they're working on their second one. They got a couple of singles off the second upcoming album that are already out. So check them out. You can find them on pretty much all streaming services, and they also have their own YouTube channel where you can listen to their full album, which is called Weight of the World, and I just remembered it.
We'll drop links to all of this stuff in the description after the video's uploaded.
Yeah, definitely. And again, thanks for everybody who's come out this week and who came out last week. And tell your friends if you like the show, and if you don't like the show, keep your mouth shut. And as always,
just lie and say you like it.
Lie and say you like it. And as always, we like to end with the immortal words of John Waters: "Get more out of life.
See a fucked up movie.
Gorkha.
Gorkha. And Chris, you want to